Well, good day to you. It is January the 6th, and I hope wherever you are, you're having a wonderful day. And hopefully my enthusiasm didn't just totally turn you off, but it's just kind of the way I am. I know when I'm at work, people are like, man, you're way too chipper for this early in the morning. But I'm like this in the afternoon too, and I'm even like this working well into the evening time. But my name is Gary Willing, and as always, I want to welcome you to Search for Signs if you're new, and welcome you back if you have been here before. But if you want to know more about Maitreya and the Masters of Wisdom, read more about it, educate yourself better about it. I've included links in the description portion of these videos that take you to websites that give you really good information about Maitreya and the Masters of Wisdom. Don't know anything about them? Definitely check out the Share International site first. But you want to join the discussion? That's fine. You can post your comments, post your question in the comments section. You can even email me at searchforsigns@mail.com. And what's been happening here recently is I've been getting a lot of people sending me links to articles and those kind of things. That's another way to join the discussion. So Danjania Hill, I forgot to thank you in the last video for sending me a link. I really do appreciate it. And then others like Winthang and Ashwak Radati, you've been actually reposting what I've been posting on Facebook. So thank you for doing that too. Now, also got to give another shout out to Ashwak Radati for a comment. But let's see who else has commented here. James Wambidi, Luke Williams, and SIL. You guys all commented and asked questions since the last time I put a video up. Thank you so much. Now, Steady in the Light. I don't know if you're listening to this. Hopefully you are. You posted a comment. I got some ideas that I wanted to kind of share with you. I don't know if you'll see my side of it, but that's fine. And then you took the comment down. So I don't know if that means that you don't want me talking about it or you don't want to talk about it, which is cool. But hopefully you're listening to this. And if you are listening to this and you want me to talk about what you had said, like I said, I got some thoughts. And like I said, I don't know if you'll agree with it or not. Either send me another comment saying it's okay to talk about it. You can repost the comment again, or you can even email me at searchforsigns@mail.com if you don't want to talk about it in front of other people. So anyway, but thank you for the comment nonetheless. Alrighty. Let's see. James Wambidi. You always get me going with your questions. I love your questions. Will the Vatican in particular get the courage to inform the world that Jesus was the disciple of Lord Maitreya, the world teacher, the Christ? I got to be honest with you. I think it's a matter of when, not if. And I don't know why I'm going to say this, but this is just my initial thought on it is I do think as ingrained as the Catholic Church is in their own dogma, rituals, and those kind of things, I wouldn't be surprised if they actually, maybe not so much have the courage, I guess, but will let's say, inform the world that their Jesus is, inform maybe not so much the world, but their own people that Jesus is the disciple of the Lord Maitreya and stuff. I think they'll do it before the Southern Baptists do it. That's just, I don't know what made me think that, but that's just what my thought was on it. Now, the thing about the Catholic Church, okay, and I've brought this up before based on your questions, and I'll just talk about it again. I don't have any skin in the game. I'm not a Catholic. So, I'd have no insight into who and what Pope Francis is. But my initial, and since then, my continuous impression of the current Pope, Pope Francis, is that the Catholic Church elected the right person for the right time. And I think it's quite extraordinary because if you look all throughout the world, I don't know of really, I can only think of one other world leader on the world stage, and unfortunately she's stepping down, and that's Jacinda Ardern from New Zealand, is the only world leader that I know of off the top of my head. I'm sure there are others that fits this kind of, mold where she seemed like and just as the Pope is, seemed like they're very much about the people. Not so much about enriching their own life. And you can't say that about the other politicians, especially in the United States, by far, right? On both sides of the aisle, really, to be honest with you. But if you look at Pope Francis, he seems like the guy that kind of world leader that's not there for himself. He's there for the people. He didn't position himself and maneuver politically to get into that position because he knew what it would mean if he could get in there and that kind of thing. I think he was kind of asked to do it, reluctantly took it, and since then has not let it get to his head. And so that's why when I initially had that thought about him when he was elected. I kind of kept it to myself because I didn't know how he was going to turn out, right? But it seems like over the years he's been nothing less than an exceptional pope, as far as I'm concerned. But I also think that, and I don't have any insight on who he is in any way that any more than anybody else would. So this is just a guess. It's only a guess. I think he already knows who Maitreya is. I think he's already met Maitreya, and I think he's already knows and met the Master Jesus. And it's been said that there are cardinals in the Curia who are direct disciples of the Master Jesus and know the relationship between Jesus and Maitreya. But perhaps it's not the right time for them to bring it up, is my thing. So it's not a question of if, but a question of when, as far as I'm concerned. Now, an institution, just like an individual, has its own free will, because an institution is made up of a bunch of individuals, right? So these masters do not infringe upon people's free will at all, whether it's an institution, a group, nation, or, like I said, an individual itself, right? So the Master Jesus, it's been said, will eventually head the Catholic Church, but he's not going to impose his will upon it. The Catholic Church would have to ask him for his help. And at that time, there would have to be a pope that was in place that would be humble enough to be able to step aside and let the Master Jesus take that role again. I do think that Pope Francis is that guy that could do that. Now, the Christians would say Jesus wouldn't have to ask for permission. They're not the slightest bit concerned about infringement upon other people's free will in their own life, let alone God doing it to them. You know what I'm saying? Or Jesus doing, you know what I mean? So, what's the difference, right? If I'm going to infringe, Jesus is going to infringe upon my free will, I should be able to infringe upon your free will. Well, that's not how it works, right? So it's best to not infringe upon people's free will. But none of these masters infringe on anybody's free will, impose their will on anything or anyone without them asking for their help. So, like Maitreya even says, he goes, my help is here. All you have to do is ask for it, right? So same thing with Jesus. But once he gets in there and he starts to head up the church, it will really be about, I think, going through the Bible, going through the scriptures, going through the rituals that the church has, and really looking and seeing what is real and what is unreal, what was said and what was meant to be said, and what was put in there by man after Jesus was long gone. And I'm sure there will be questions that come up by the general public or by the churches themselves, like, what did you mean by this? And Jesus will probably say something to the effect, I never said anything like that. That was put in there years after I was gone, centuries after I was gone, perhaps, right? And then just twisted and distorted and moved, and this word taken out and that word put in by this person, that person, or whatever, to where now this is what we got, and it had nothing to do with what I originally said, or I never said anything like that at all, right? Or what did you mean by this? And he could maybe elaborate on it in a way that only a master could elaborate on what the truth of that teaching is in the Bible, and the closest that we can get to it right now, because the Master Jesus is not out open in the world yet. He's waiting, as these other masters are, for Maitreya to eventually be known for who he is, and then he makes his announcement on the day of declaration, right? And then Maitreya will start to announce these masters one by one. But the closest that we can get is if you read Benjamin Creme's master's articles from time to time, and in some of these, he elucidates on some of these biblical passages. And for me, they're not only eye-openers, they're life-changing, revelations in a lot of ways. But the real, I think, the thing that Jesus will help with the churchgoers is dogma and belief, I think, cheapen the truths within the Bible, because you just believe it. You don't do anything with it. And I know when I've read some of the things that Benjamin Creme's master said about certain biblical passages, when he elucidates on it or shines a light on what they were saying in there and talks about it, it always opens it up in a way to where I can apply it to my life. And I think that's what Jesus will do with these truths in the Bible, and it will break it wide open for people to really see what they've been missing all along, if that makes any sense. So anyway, that's just my little thoughts on it. So thank you very much for your question in that way. Now, Ashawak Radati, you posted a wonderful comment about your time touring London with a couple friends, going from place to place where Benjamin Creme gave his talks. And it's a little too lengthy for me to read the comment out, but it was wonderful. But there were some things I wanted to talk about with it. One is the question that you had. You said you went to some places and you could feel, it was like you could feel the energy when Ben was talking, even though it had been decades since he had been there. And you said something, where is it? I said, how come an energy can remain in a place for so many years? And there's a few things I want to say about that, and also about your comment in general. Okay, so I was thinking about this just the other day, and then you commented about this. It's like, this is so funny because I was just thinking about this. But when it comes to thought forms, I've had experiences like this, and I wonder if anybody else has had experiences like this too. But let's say you're going for a walk. I used to walk all the time in the same route. I would always have the same route from here to there. And sometimes it would even be when I was running or whatever like that. Okay, so I'm going for a walk, and I get to a point, and I have a thought about a person or a place or a thing or a time or whatever like that. And then I think about it when I'm there, and then I move on. I don't think about it anymore after that. I get on with my life. A day or two later, I go for a walk in the same route. I get to that exact same spot, and I remember what I had been thinking again, and it just pops back into my head again. I'm like, that's weird. And then a lot of times I don't even notice it. I start kind of automatically thinking about it, and then it might be over and over and over again. And after a few times of this, I'm like, every single time I go to that spot, I always think about that one thing that I had that thought. What is that? And I wonder if, I'm sure this is what it is. You put that thought form out there, and it's still there, and you're sensitive enough to it. You walk through it again. You experience that thought form again that you just put out. You know what I'm saying? So, that was one thing that I started thinking about in terms of what you were saying, in terms of, can an energy last, in a certain area for that long, or how does an energy last, or something like that. Benjamin Creme even said that we don't realize how far out our thoughts go before they come back to us. And if they're harmful, destructive, negative thoughts, fearful thoughts, they go out into the world. And when they're going out in that direction, it affects the people around you and goes out and out and out and out and out. And it comes right back, and it does the same kind of harm coming back to you. And once it hits you, you have to deal with all the repercussions of that, because that's called karma. And those are our thoughts. Now, most people think karma is just deeds and what you say. No, it's actually what you're thinking too actually affects the same way too. We create those things. And if you're putting out destructive or harmful thoughts that cause people to change their ways of thinking in a harmful way, you have to deal with everything that you put out. Even if it's working out for you now, right? It's going to come back to you, and you're going to have to deal with all that stuff too. That's why he said it was always better to put out loving thoughts, because when you put out loving thoughts, it affects the world in the exact same way, but in a loving way, or creative thoughts and those kind of things. So could it be possible that you were feeling that energy? Absolutely, 100%. You know what I mean? Especially coming from something like Maitreya, overshadowing Ben at that time. But the other thing too, in terms of your tour with your friends, going from place to place where Benjamin Creme was giving his talks, I would say it was probably like 2006. I had this thought one time when I was in San Francisco. I used to go, I went there for probably 17 years. I went to these conferences that Benjamin Creme, the group, put out, and Benjamin Creme would fly here to the States, and he would give a tour in New York and LA and San Francisco, and then he would do that twice a year for a long time. And in the summertime, he would always end his tour with a conference in San Francisco. And the times that I went, it was at the Marin Headlands, which was a former World War II Army barracks, just north of San Francisco. You couldn't see the Golden Gate Bridge, but it was just about a mile or two from there and all that kind of stuff. Right on the coast. It was in a kind of a rural-ish looking area, but it was really close to San Francisco. It was quite extraordinary. But it was a national park, and it was gorgeous. And he would come and on Friday he would give a talk, and then we would do a transmission meditation, and then we would eat dinner and breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then we would be breaking up into groups, and then we'd ask questions and those kind of things, and he would try to answer the questions and those kind of things. And it was a wonderful, wonderful weekend. And I took advantage of it every time I could go, and for years I went, of course, and then the last time I went was in 2010. But anyway, in like 2006, 2007, I remember I had this thought, and it was like, I wonder if in the future people will come to places like this because Ben was here as a historical tour, right? Because of what Ben, because who and what Ben was. I know there are people, a lot of people, probably more people than not, right? Can't stand what he said, hated what he did, think he's a fraud, he's the Antichrist, evil henchman, whatever they think about who and what Benjamin Creme was. In the future, when all this information comes to light and people know the truth of who and what the masters are and Maitreya is, they're seeing how the benefits of taking Maitreya's advice and accepting the principle of sharing, how that's bringing about justice and peace is starting to manifest on this planet and so forth, and humanity is coming together in a way that we had never been before. Well, of course, they're going to look at Benjamin Creme much differently. And I thought to myself, I wonder if they're going to come back. And you kind of confirmed that there will be people that will be doing these tours, seeing where Benjamin Creme was giving lectures here and in London like you did. This is Friend's House, Houston Road, London, where Benjamin Creme gave his talks in the late 70s and early 80s, of 2 centuries ago, that kind of thing. And this is where Maitreya overshadowed him. It's going to be an incredible to be able to tour in that way. But I just remember how I had this nostalgic feeling of being in there, of being a part of history in that way, because people will come back and pilgrimage over to the headlands, and maybe there'll be this little statue of Ben because he was a short guy. No, I'm kidding. Hopefully they won't put a statue up of him, because when people put statues up of historical figures, that's when we pedalize them and make them out to be more than who they are. He was just a guy, he was just a person, a quite extraordinary man, don't get me wrong. But he was just a man. He wasn't anything more than just a man. But I really do thank you for your comment. Now, I want to end this video, and I want to read a quote from Maitreya. Now, these quotes, even though it mentions Maitreya in third person, they are quotes from Maitreya. And what do I mean by that? Well, he gave some of these quotes to his associate who lives in the Asian community of London with Maitreya, who then in turn passed it off to the Share International group, and it was published in the Share International magazine some years ago. And these quotes that I'm getting, I'm not getting them from any kind of internal source. My scoop is Maitreya's Teachings, The Laws of Life. It's a book you can pick up yourself and you can read yourself. The link is in the description to the Amazon page to purchase this book. But anyway, what does he say about experiencing the self within? If you follow others instead of being yourself, you lose your sparkle. You cannot reflect the light of individuality. Without that light, there is no progress in life. Similarly, when you experience the self within, you come to know you are an immortal entity, completely separate from mind, spirit, and body. You learn to use these temples of the Lord creatively with awareness. Processes of healing follow automatically. This is why Maitreya has said that even people with AIDS will be healed through prayer and through the practice of honesty of mind, sincerity of spirit, and detachment. Without detachment, there is no salvation. The prayer given out previously by Maitreya can lead people to experience that self within, who is detached from mind, spirit, and body. It is included here for those who do not know it. I am the creator of the universe. I am the father and mother of the universe. Everything came from me. Everything shall return to me. Mind, spirit, and body are my temples for the self to realize in them my supreme being and becoming. I love you all. Take care. Have a great day. Look forward to putting up new videos and talking to you in the future. See you guys soon. Remember to take action and help SOP save our planet. Thanks for listening, and we look forward to talking to you again in future videos.